Welcome to Might in Motion, where we help you navigate your personal and professional goals to manifest them into your deserved career and life path. Here at Might in Motion, we don't make excuses, we do the work and go above and beyond. The Might in Motion podcast brings you guests that will help stretch you out of your comfort zone and push you to improve your goals. Like, comment, and share. This is Might in Motion.
Excited to introduce to you Mandy Morrison. She is a certified nutrition coach, personal trainer who is passionate about helping people take back their power by building strength, confidence, and optimizing their mental health through mindful movement and fueling their bodies with proper nutrition, which I think we all need. These are things that have drastically changed her mindset and her life over the past 10 years, from being a depressed, anxiety-ridden new mom to having a renewed lease on life, and it all has to offer. Mandy, welcome to Might in Motion.
Thank you so much, Mariana. I'm so excited and sort of nervous to be here today.
Hey, we always talk about like things that make us nervous or that we might be scared of, to just go do it.
Yes.
Right. And I just am so grateful that you accepted the invitation to join us today, because I know you have a very interesting story about your journey and mom to mom, right? I think many moms anyway, I don't want to say all, but many moms that I know of, myself included, definitely go through a transition, when you're pregnant and you have a kid, and it's just, everything's going crazy. Can you give us a tidbit of your story and what that journey was like for you?
Yeah. So I guess I had my first child almost 13 years ago, and I moved away from my family and all my friends in another province. We're in Canada. So I was in another province. Everyone was new to me, everything, my surroundings, everything was new. And then I was a new mom. And so I had really just my husband to kind of support me and be my friend and my confidant and all of those things, besides the people that I worked with. And, I actually suffered quite a bit when I was a teenager with anxiety and depression, although I didn't want to call it that, because that label it just seemed wrong to me. I thought there was something deeper that was wrong. So I was always kind of trying to figure out what was wrong with me. It can't be this anxiety. What are these symptoms I'm experiencing? It can't be that. It has to be something more. And then I sort of got stuck in that cycle of like, well, what does this symptom mean? What does this like heart racing symptom mean? And then I just really got stuck in my head with everything. And then having a new baby and trying to navigate, being not only a new mom, but also a wife with a baby, and someone who has a job and a baby and all of those other things. So I kind of just went deep into a spiral of like, what does this symptom mean? Really in my head a lot. And so what I realized was that the only person who could get me out of that was me. And I actually found, I don't know if anybody's heard of those Oprah and Deepak Chopra meditations they used to send out for free.
Yeah.
So one day I was like, oh, well, I found it. I don't even know where. And I started doing that, and just little pieces of information I would take from that, and understanding that sometimes, kind of like I said at the beginning of this chat, was you need to get into your body to get out of your head. And I was a dancer growing up, so movement was very therapeutic to me. But it was also damaging at the same time, because there was a very certain body standard and way that you needed to look. And that wasn't, like I had bigger legs and I had more of a strong muscular body. So for me, the slender, tall, thin, ballet body that you would typically see wasn't really me. Um, so I was kind of on a search for, what would make me feel good that was movement. And I started with yoga that was, really similar to dance. And I became, like I said, more into my body and out of my head. And yoga was very therapeutic for me. Um, and then I became a yoga instructor. I did my teacher training and became a yoga instructor and started sharing that practice with people. And it was beautiful to be able to see people get out of their heads and into their bodies more in that practice. But I was also running my own yoga studio and being a mom and now having a second child and doing all of the things. And I got to a point where I said yes to too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah. And no boundaries. It was like, oh, yeah, I have this momentum going. It was exciting. And I was teaching in the school and I was teaching at my studio and I was being asked to, host these little events and things. And I said yes to everything without checking in with myself first. Like,
right.
does this really align with how you're feeling? And are you okay with, giving up this amount of time and all of those things. So I came to a point of burnout, which many of us do. And I had to shut down yoga altogether. I was at the point where I was giving myself to everyone else and not performing or practicing yoga myself. So when something that you're really passionate about that you try to help people with and you give to them, it gets really complicated when you're not practicing yourself and taking care of yourself and practicing that, self-awareness and self-love and all of those things.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can't. I mean, I think most of us heard this quote, right? You can't pour from an empty cup,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And many, many women are always wanting to try to please, and that whole art of saying no, it can be very, very difficult. I love your comment on checking in with yourself, right? How does it
Yeah.
serve you to say yes to this?
Yeah.
Was there, obviously there's a pivotal moment where you're like, hey, I've got to kind of shut down the yoga studio and doing that because it wasn't serving you anymore. That must have been a very hard decision to make.
Yeah, it was. And it was hard to let people down because I was there to please. And that was part of my, I guess from childhood trauma is that I was a people pleaser and I had no boundaries and it was, I just want you to like me and
Mhm.
I just want to say yes to everything because I just want to be accepted and I want to, all of those things that sometimes we do, not realizing when we say yes to other people, we're saying no to ourselves.
Mhm.
And yeah, so now I try to make decisions from the heart by taking a step back before saying yes right away and thinking, okay, do I have time and space in my life for this right now? Does it align with who I want to be and how I want to move in this world and all of those things? But really, will future me thank me for this decision?
Yeah,
Is
I
kind of
love that.
something, yeah. So that's kind of like the way I make decisions now is, will future me thank me for this? And even small decisions, I like to always refer back to like cleaning my kitchen before bed. you
Yeah.
know, will future me thank me for this decision? Yes, I love waking up with a clean kitchen. So that's, yeah, it's kind of something that I bounce things off of now and something that I teach my clients too in my coaching practice.
Yeah. It's, I love that kind of thought process of the future. Will the future me thank me for doing this? Right. And it goes into your goals. It goes into whatever your personal mission is in life. And
Yeah.
how did you, when you made that pivot, how did you reconcile that with all the people that you used to say yes to all the time, right? Like, how did you have those kind of conversations to be able to redefine that boundary, because it is a boundary, and maintain it?
Yeah, it was really hard actually. And it turned out that we were moving away from the town that we were living in. So it kind of was like a hard
Mm-hmm.
separation point, I guess. And it also turned out that there was another yoga instructor in town that was like looking for a space, and it was such a seamless conversion. I
Yeah.
just like gave the space over to her, and she said she would take on anyone that I had with, classes still left. So it was kind of a seamless, perfect way for me to kind of go out, and people understood,
Yeah.
and I think actually people appreciated that I was honest about what I needed and about my boundaries, and yeah, that I had just taken on too much.
Right. And we talked kind of in the intro as well about, by getting into your body and out of your head, you're able to move past depression and anxiety. And you work with people today and helping them create their own path to that space.
Yeah, so I now, the sort of the way that I got out of that chronic anxiety and depression um, was, yeah, by being able to get into my body for one. But now I'm able to, when I make decisions, like I said, check in with myself, see where I'm at, because I've done the work previously in, recognizing that I wasn't setting proper boundaries, and saying yes to too much, and taking on too many things, and volunteering time that didn't, not that, well, I mean, I think everybody should volunteer their time in some way that serves them, but I was
Yep.
doing it in ways that didn't serve me. Um, so now, I volunteer my time. I'm on the volunteer fire department, and in that, it serves me, and I enjoy that, and there's so much that I can learn there. And it's really cool experience too.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, and just honestly, I just got myself down to the very basic things, like what do I need to do to feel good?
Yeah.
Very basic, like get enough sleep. Because I would find when I would only get 6 hours of sleep, I was full of anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
I was moody, and I was exhausted. So there's no time for exercise when you feel like crap all of the time.
Right.
I mean, there is time, but you don't make it a priority.
Right.
So
So,
sleep, huge.
so do you
Um,
have like a schedule that you try to stick to then every day? Because I know, like with kids, mine might be younger than yours. Sometimes that doesn't always work, but like I know for me personally, I have a kind of a set schedule. I block off time that I know, like, this is my workout time. This is when
yeah,
this is when I plan to actually be physically in bed. I may not be asleep, but I'm physically going to be in bed by 9:30 or whatever the time is. Do you do something similar? Or there habits that you've created within yourself to be able to help find that time to stay focused on what's right for you?
yeah, for sure. And especially for me, I'm such a creature of habit. I need my 7 to 8 hours for sure of sleep. So if I know that I have to be up at 6:30, I'm counting back the hours. Okay, what time do I have to be in bed by,
Yeah.
and what time do I need to be asleep by in order to get this sleep that I need
Right.
to be able to function optimally and give myself to the people in my life that deserve my best self. So yeah, sleep was number one for me. Um, and then some kind of movement every day is
Mhm.
really important, whether that's a walk or a workout, doing some kind of movement. And it doesn't have to be, the the thing that everybody's doing or the thing that everybody says is the right thing to do. It's whatever feels good to you.
Yep.
Some kind of movement and for some amount of time is better than nothing. So I really like to, when I work with my clients, and sometimes, people are going from doing zero. I've
Right.
never exercised, or I sometimes take my dog for a walk. So we start with very, very basic. Okay, if you don't do any kind of movement, I want you to start by walking on the treadmill for 10 or 15 minutes 3 times a week. Start with those really small, simple, which can be really big for someone who has anxiety or who feels like they can't even get out of bed.
Right.
For
Right.
me now, it's, yeah,
That movement helps trigger everything in your brain and your body, and it releases, chemicals that are positive, right?
right,
And
exactly.
and I could totally relate to that. When I went on my journey to lose 50 pounds, it literally started with like, I just want to walk. I want to be able to
Yeah,
walk my neighborhood and not be like out of breath, can't do it, can't finish it, right? And it was that simple, but it at the time it felt like this is insurmountable,
yeah,
and I love that you take that approach of just take it down the basics. The basic is just get some kind of movement where you get off your butt and you move,
yeah.
right?
Really, yeah. Just get up and get moving for a short time and start doing it consistently.
Yeah.
I always like to say those small, imperfect actions every day just lead up to such a huge difference. And if you think about it like an airplane, as they're like flying in a certain direction, if you change the trajectory of that airplane by just 2 degrees,
Mhm.
their final destination is an absolutely completely different place.
Right.
So those small habits, people think they need to just overhaul their entire life, but it's truly just about getting back down to the basics and doing those very basic things consistently.
So sleep, movement,
Yep.
and is your what you're fueling yourself another component to what keeps you sane?
Yes, for sure. And one thing I like to also mention is limiting caffeine and alcohol,
Hmm.
especially for people with anxiety. It really just doesn't serve an anxious brain to be drinking a lot of coffee or a lot of alcohol. Excuse me. I do and have always drank coffee. But one thing that I like to suggest to people that still want to drink coffee is that have something to eat first thing in the morning, protein and some dietary fat and a little bit of carbs before you consume your coffee. And it worked for me, and it's worked for
Yeah.
lots of other people that really still enjoy their coffee, but now are like, oh, you know what? I don't have that anxious feeling, and I feel much better now when I drink coffee. It doesn't give me a stomach ache or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, like that's really insightful because I hadn't really thought of that correlation until you just said that, because one of the habits that I've changed, I used to go work out on an empty stomach. So I would get up and I would just go to the gym. And I had a trainer and he was like, I really need you to eat something. But I'm not hungry. I don't wake up hungry. He's like, something. And so
Yeah,
before it would be get up, gym, coffee.
right. Yeah,
Crazy me, right? Like I would just literally be like crazy. And now it's like as I get up, I'm drinking close to a quarter, like several ounces. I'm like eating something. It might be a protein bar. I come home, I'm finishing, my first quarter of a gallon of water before I even have breakfast and before I even have that first cup of coffee. And it's
yeah,
just one. Like I literally just make one cup,
that's it.
and that's helped me tremendously. And I never made that correlation of like, man, that's triggering things in my brain and my body from a chemical perspective I never even thought of.
Yeah, totally. And just eating protein first thing in the morning in general is always a really good way to start your day. It will balance your blood sugar. So if you start your day with something that's higher in carbohydrates, it's
Mhm.
okay. Like carbohydrates are not the enemy, like some people think. Um, but what's going to happen is it's going to spike your blood sugar, and then you're going to have a blood sugar drop. And that can contribute to anxiety. So if we can add protein in with that carbohydrate or whatever else that you're eating,
Mhm.
a good serving of protein That's going to keep your blood sugars level and also help with any kind of anxiety that either comes from the coffee or just in general from how start your day or live your life.
Got it. So when you coach people today, right? And
Yep.
obviously you do a portion of that in person, but do you do virtual type of coaching? How do you approach that relationship with your clients?
Yeah, so I do both in-person training and online training. I actually do more online than I do in person. So my nutrition coaching and online fitness coaching, I do check-ins with them once a week, and it's sort of this video format where I guess it's a hybrid style
Hmm.
format. So they fill out like a check-in form. How did your week go? How did you sleep? How was your stress? How's your hunger and craving? So kind of asking about all those biomarkers that indicate that things are going well or something is not right. So when, stress is high and sleep is bad and hunger is, really out of control, then there's something we need to be looking at here. So yeah, it's kind of a hybrid style. I have an app that I use to program workouts in, and then they
Hmm.
kind of go by the app. And then with the nutrition piece, I do a lot of it sort of macro coaching. So I get people to focus on, what they're eating macronutrient wise. And depending on your goals, like not everybody has a goal to lose weight, and not everybody, actually a lot of my clients are women who are 50 plus and going through sort of that menopause and premenopause phase. So their protein and how their nutrition habits are even more important.
Hmm.
Their joints are sore. So I'm really working with these women to make sure they're consuming enough protein so that they're not losing muscle mass. Because as we sort of age, and especially as we hit menopause, the rate at which we lose muscle mass increases. And we
Yeah.
want to keep that muscle mass, and we can do that by making sure that we're eating enough protein and continuing to do some strength training and things like that.
Yeah, I know for me personally, I pivoted from doing cardio almost every single day to weights every single day. And I still walk,
Yeah.
like I walk every day. So that's kind of my cardio. But before it
Yeah.
was, I was doing Orange Theory, which is, running, rowing, and a little bit of weights, right? But it
Right. Yeah.
was hardcore on the cardio side. And part of that is because, as you age, like you said, and I'm going through that and just wanting to try to make that pivot. It's been an interesting journey, and I hadn't really thought about the protein piece has an impact to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And, consuming enough water and
Mhm.
making sure you're staying hydrated is also really important too, and all of that.
So I'm going to pivot for just a second, and that
Yep.
is you mentioned that your mom. How have you tried to instill, or how have you instilled in in your kid? Do you have one? I don't know if you have one kid or two kids or three. It doesn't really matter, but like
Yeah.
that whole philosophy of when you're saying yes, make sure it serves you. And
Yeah.
and that example of, getting out of your body, out of your head and into your body and things like that. How do you kind of take that learning that you have and try to instill that in the next generation so they don't learn it later in life. They're learning it now.
Yeah, I'm very open with, I have two girls. They're 10 and almost 13.
Mhm.
So I'm really open with them. We talk a lot about food and how there are, no good foods or bad foods, just one that's sort of more nutritious or more calorically dense or, that sort of thing. It's not like we're crazy health nuts in this house or anything. But yeah, we have open conversations a lot, and I let them see me, doing my thing and talking
Yeah.
to my clients. I like I said, I check in with my clients sort of online like this, so they hear me, telling them great job, and just do those small basic things. And um, it's really cool when you get a text message from your teacher or your daughter's teacher when they say, oh, I got this message the other day. Maddox wrote this quote on the board in class today, and it said something about, oh, why would you be focusing on anyone else when you have a perfectly good person to focus on, and it's yourself, or something like that.
Oh,
And
neat.
yeah, it's just, I guess, just being open and having open conversations with your kids about
Mhm.
what you're doing and how it impacts their life, and letting them see you, preparing meals together. Our older daughter is really starting to get interested in cooking. So just talking, what do you
Right.
think we could add? Or do you have protein in your lunch today? Letting them kind of take the lead in making their lunches, but asking them, do you have a source of protein in there today? And they're like, well, is this protein? Or, just kind of keeping that conversation open, I guess.
I love that. I love that
Yeah.
tremendously. I have two girls as well, and they're slightly younger at 6 and 9, but they see everything.
Yeah.
And when you share with them and you include them, they learn so much. And
Yeah.
it's so great that you're teaching a positive message, especially around food, because many people we grow up with, like, don't eat that. That's bad. And
Yeah.
everything has like this negative connotation. So instilling those healthy habits and a healthy appreciation on what fuels you, I think, is amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah. And really using that word specifically, is this going to fuel you? Are you going to feel good if you eat this? Or
Mm-hmm.
how do you think this food's going to make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
um, Asking them those questions, and not actually putting your thoughts on it, but asking them questions about what they would think about it, or how will that make you feel, and things like that. Not always forcing them into your sort of ways of thinking.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
So, if you could go back 10 years to the Mandy that you were 10 years ago, what advice would you give her?
Get proper sleep, 7 to 9 hours a night. um, Eat protein, eat enough protein, at least 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. Eat enough protein. Get sunlight
Yeah.
every day. Try to get some sunshine on your body every day. We live in Saskatchewan, so it can get really cold here. um, so that can add to sort of the depression, and there's a lot of seasonal depression here. But getting sunlight, man, it can be a game changer. Um, Movement every day, no matter what it is, whether it's a 15-minute dance party in your living room with your kids or an actual workout session. Get in some movement, get into your body, and get out of your head. Um, and another one too that's really big is getting vitamin D,
Yeah.
which also comes with sunlight. But here in Saskatchewan, we don't have a lot of opportunity for that, especially in the winter. So taking a vitamin D supplement is
Yeah.
really important here. Um, and the last one I would say too is avoid like mindless sedentary activities that
Mhm.
make you feel shitty about yourself. Unfollow people on social media. Check in with yourself often. Like, does this make me feel good? Does this make me feel bad? Is this decision going to align, or am I making this decision and does it align with the future Mandy?
Right.
Um, yeah,
I
I would
love that.
say, yeah,
Those are all great things that I don't know if past Mandy would have listened to right away,
yeah,
but like we I think that's great advice for anybody now. And you don't get where you want to go until you start. And today's always a great day to start.
yeah.
So what's the best way for people to reach out to you, especially if they're interested in getting, that one-on-one time to learn more about how they can, get into their body and get out of their head?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Mandy_Mo. I'm also on Facebook at Mandy Morrison Fitness and Nutrition. I don't have a website set up yet. I'm working on it in my spare time.
Which I'm sure you
Um,
like all of us moms.
yeah, and I mean, I have My intake form is linked in my Instagram bio and on my Facebook page, but people can always email me. My email address is mandymorrisoncoaching@gmail.com. So yeah, I just love having these conversations and helping people move forward in whatever direction they want to go in.
Well, I love it. I think everything you said is, just really resonated with me, and there's definitely things that I know that I'm like, man, I need to work on that, right? Like, I know I need to work probably on a little bit more sleep, and even if I get usually 7 hours, maybe that's not enough. So that just really great tidbits for even me to ask myself. So, Mandy, thank you again for your time, for joining us from Canada. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me and for giving me the opportunity just to share something that I'm so passionate about. And I look forward to doing this again sometime.
Thank you for tuning into Might in Motion. If you learned something about motivation, momentum, mindfulness, or might, please like, comment, and share. Thank you.